Your Toyota hybrid battery is DIing right now, and the worst part is, you would never know it until the day it cost you $5,200. Not because you drove too hard, not because you skipped a service, but because of one small, almost laughably cheap component that 99% of hybrid owners have never touched in the entire life of their car. After years of working on Prius, Camry Hybrid, RAV4 Hybrid, and Highlander Hybrid models, I have seen the same heartbreaking pattern over and over. A perfectly good high-voltage battery, one that should have lasted 15 years, killed early by something a $30 part could have prevented. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that part is, why Toyota buried it, and why the people who ignore it end up paying for an entire battery pack they never needed to replace. Let's start with what's actually inside your hybrid battery, because once you understand this, the $30 fix makes complete sense. Your Toyota's high-voltage battery pack lives in the back of the vehicle, usually underneath or behind the rear seat. Inside that pack are dozens of individual nickel-metal hydride or lithium-ion cells, packed tightly together in a sealed housing. Those cells do something every battery does when it works hard. They generate heat. And heat is the single greatest enemy of any hybrid battery on the planet. When those cells run hot, they degrade. When they degrade, they lose capacity. And when they lose capacity, your car starts running the gasoline engine more and more to compensate. Your fuel economy collapses, and eventually that dreaded warning light appears on the dash telling you the hybrid system has failed. To really grasp why heat matters this much, you have to understand how these cells age. Every time your battery charges and discharges, which happens constantly in a hybrid as you brake and accelerate, a tiny amount of wear occurs inside each cell. That's normal, and Toyota engineered the pack to handle hundreds of thousands of those cycles. But heat multiplies that wear dramatically. A cell running at a moderate temperature might survive 15 years of daily cycling. That same cell running consistently hot can lose half its expected life, or worse. The chemistry simply breaks down faster when it's cooking. This is why two identical hybrids can have completely different battery lifespans. It isn't the mileage that separates them. It's the temperature those cells lived at, day after day, year after year. And temperature comes down almost entirely to one thing: AIR flow. Here's where the $30 fix comes in. Toyota knew heat would kill these batteries, so they engineered a cooling system specifically to keep that battery pack at a safe temperature. But unlike your engine, which uses liquid coolant, your hybrid battery is cooled by air. Plain cabin AIR. There is a small intake vent, usually located low on the side of the rear seat or in the rear quarter panel near the back door, and behind that vent sits a cooling fan. That fan pulls air from inside your cabin, pushes it across the battery cells to carry the heat away, and exhausts it back out. It's simple, it's elegant, and it works beautifully right up until the moment that intake vent gets clogged. And it always gets clogged. Think about what lives in the back of your car: dust, pet hair, crumbs from the kids, lint from grocery bags, dander, dead skin, the fine grit that settles out of the air over years of daily driving. All of it gets pulled toward that intake vent because that vent is constantly sucking in cabin air. Over time, a thick mat of debris builds up across the intake screen and chokes the airflow down to a trickle. Now your cooling fan is spinning its heart out, but it's barely moving any air at all. The battery cells keep generating heat with nowhere for that heat to go, and the cells closest to the blocked air flow start cooking. What makes this so gradual is how gradual it is. The clog doesn't happen overnight. It builds up so slowly, fiber by fiber, particle by particle, that there's never a single moment where anything feels wrong. Your car drives exactly the same on the day the vent is half blocked as it did when it was new. There's no noise, no warning, no symptom you'd ever connect to a cooling fan. The battery just quietly runs a few degrees hotter each year and a few degrees hotter again until the cumulative damage finally tips a module over the edge. By the time you notice anything, the harm is already done and it can't be undone. That's the cruel genius of this failure. It hides in plain sight, behind a trim panel, in a place you have no reason to ever look. This is the part most owners never understand. A hybrid battery doesn't usually die all at once. It dies one cell module at a time. When airflow is restricted, the heat isn't distributed evenly. Some modules run dramatically hotter than others. Those hot modules degrade faster, fall out of balance with the rest of the pack, and once even one module drops far enough below the others, the battery management system throws a fault and condemns the entire battery. You don't get to replace one bad module at the dealership. They quote you for the whole pack, and that's where your $5,200 goes, all because of a clogged screen and a fan choking on dust. The imbalance issue deserves a closer look, because it's the mechanism that turns a small problem into a catastrophic one. Your battery management system is constantly monitoring the voltage of each module in the pack, and it works best when every module behaves the same way. When cooling is even, they age together, stay balanced, and the system keeps everything humming along. But when one section of the pack runs hot because of poor airflow, those modules start charging and discharging differently than their cooler neighbors. The gap widens over time. The system tries to compensate, but it can only do so much, and eventually the weakest modules drag down the whole pack's performance. It's a little like a chain where one link is rusting faster than the rest. The chain is only as strong as that one failing link, and when it breaks, you replace the entire chain, not the single link. Now here's the $30 fix, and this is the entire point of today's video. That battery cooling fan and its intake filter can be cleaned, and on most Toyota hybrids the filter itself is a cheap, replaceable part. The cooling fan assembly is accessible by removing a trim panel in the rear cargo area or behind the rear seat, depending on your model. Behind the intake vent sits the filter screen, and behind that, the fan housing itself collects a shocking amount of debris over the years. Cleaning that fan and clearing or replacing that intake filter restores full airflow to the battery pack. Parts cost is tiny. On most models, you're looking at the cost of a replacement filter element, a little compressed air, and maybe 20 minutes of patience. That is the difference between a battery that lasts the life of the car and a battery that dies at year 8. If you made it this far, then consider liking this video, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing to my channel. This helps me bring you more honest car advice. Let me explain why Toyota doesn't exactly advertise this. The hybrid battery cooling system maintenance is technically mentioned in your owner's manual, buried deep in a section almost nobody reads, and even then it's vague. There's no dashboard reminder, no maintenance light, no service interval that pops up telling you to clean the battery fan the way your car nags you about an oil change. The car will happily let that fan choke for a decade without saying a word, and dealerships rarely touch it during routine service because it isn't part of the standard maintenance schedule they're paid to perform. So the responsibility falls entirely on the one person who has no idea the system even exists, you. And think about the incentives at play here for a moment. There's very little reason for the system to draw your attention to a maintenance task that costs almost nothing and prevents a repair that generates thousands of dollars in revenue when it eventually happens. I'm not saying anyone designed it that way on purpose, but the practical result is the same. The cheapest, most powerful piece of preventive maintenance on your entire hybrid is also the one nobody reminds you to do. Compare that to your oil, your tires, your cabin air filter, all things you get prompted about constantly. The one component that can save you $5,000 is the one you have to discover entirely on your own. The financial math here is brutal once you see it clearly. A clogged battery cooling system does not just risk the battery. Long before the pack fails completely, you start paying in fuel. A hybrid running a degraded, overheating battery leans on the gasoline engine far more than it should. Owners often notice their 40 miles per gallon Prius slowly drifting down toward 30 miles per gallon, then into the high 20s, and they assume it is just an aging car. It is not. It is a battery that cannot hold and deliver charge properly because heat has eaten its capacity. You are literally burning extra gasoline every single week to feed a problem that a clean filter would have prevented. That is money leaking out of your tank on top of the eventual repair bill. Run those numbers out over time and the picture gets even starker. Say poor battery health costs you just 8 or 10 miles per gallon. Over a year of normal driving, that is hundreds of dollars in extra fuel quietly disappearing year after year, while the battery degrades further and the fuel penalty grows. So you are not just facing one big repair bill at the end. You are paying a slow, invisible tax the entire time the problem develops. By the time the battery finally fails, a careful owner has often spent more on wasted gasoline than the $30 fix would ever have cost. And that is before the replacement pack even enters the conversation. It is, without exaggeration, one of the worst returns on neglect anywhere on the car. There's a temperature reality here that makes this even more urgent depending on where you live. If you're driving a hybrid in a hot climate, Phoenix, Houston, Las Vegas, anywhere the summer cabin temperatures soar, your battery is already fighting an uphill battle against ambient heat. Now add a clogged cooling intake on top of that, and you've created the perfect environment to cook those cells. Hybrid batteries in hot states statistically fail earlier than the same batteries in mild climates, and inadequate cooling airflow is a massive part of why. The hotter your environment, the more that $30 fix matters, and the more often you should be checking that intake. It's worth understanding why a parked car in summer is so dangerous to that battery specifically. When your hybrid sits in a parking lot under the sun, the cabin can climb well past 130 degrees inside. That's the same air your battery cooling fan will pull across the cells the moment you start driving. If the intake is clear, the system can manage it, slowly bringing temperatures back into a safe range as the air conditioning cools the cabin. But if that intake is clogged, the fan can't move enough of that superheated air, and the battery sits at extreme temperatures far longer than it should. Multiply that across an entire summer of daily drives, and you understand why warm climates are so brutal on these packs, and why keeping the airflow clear matters most exactly where the heat is worst. Now, I want to be clear about what this fix is and what it isn't, because I don't want you walking away with the wrong idea. Cleaning your battery cooling fan and filter will not resurrect a battery that's already failed. If your hybrid system warning light is already on and modules are already condemned, no amount of cleaning brings those dead cells back. This is prevention, not resurrection. The whole power of this $30 habit is that it keeps a healthy battery healthy. It protects the capacity you still have. The owners who win are the ones who start cleaning that fan early and keep doing it, not the ones who discover it after the damage is done. Catching it at year 3 keeps your battery alive at year 15. Discovering it at year 9, when the warning light is already glowing, is far too late. How often should this happen? For most hybrid owners, checking the battery cooling intake and fan once a year is plenty, and pairing it with another yearly task helps you remember. If you have pets that ride in the car, or you live somewhere especially dusty, twice a year is smarter. The intake vent should be kept clear of obstructions at all times, which brings up another silent killer. A lot of owners unknowingly block that vent with cargo. Groceries, luggage, a dog bed, a car seat base, anything packed tightly against that low side vent in the rear can choke the AIR flow just as badly as a clogged filter. If your hybrid's battery intake is on the side of the rear seat or in the rear footwell area, keeping that zone clear isn't optional. It's part of keeping your battery alive. This is also why pet owners need to pay special attention. Pet hair is almost perfectly designed to clog these intakes. It's fine, it's everywhere, and it mats together into a dense felt that airflow can't penetrate. If your dog rides in the back regularly, your battery cooling intake is collecting that hair every single drive, and it builds up far faster than ordinary dust. The same goes for anyone who hauls a lot of cargo, transports work materials, or simply lives in a region where fine dust and pollen hang in the air. The dirtier the environment inside your cabin, the faster that intake clogs and the more often you need to be looking at it. There's no universal schedule that fits everyone. The right interval depends entirely on what your particular car breathes in. Let me paint you the picture of the two owners who walk into my shop, because they tell the whole story. The first owner brings in a 10-year-old Prius with a battery that tests like it is barely aged a day. When I pull that cooling fan, it is clean, because somewhere along the line this person learned to keep that intake clear. Their battery has years of life left, and their fuel economy is exactly where it was when the car was new. The second owner brings in a car 2 years younger with a dead pack and a $5,000 quote. When I pull their fan, it comes out wrapped in a felt-like blanket of pet hair and dust so thick you could knit a sweater out of it. The only difference between those two people is knowledge. One of them knew about a $30 fix. The other never did, until it cost them a mortgage payment. I have had owners stand there in genuine disbelief when I show them what came out of their cooling fan, because they take immaculate care of everything else on the car. They change the oil religiously. They rotate the tires. They keep records of every service. And none of it mattered for the battery, because the one task that actually protects it was never on anyone's list. That is the part that stings the most for them. It was not carelessness. It was simply not knowing a system existed, and there was no one and nothing in their world telling them it did. That is exactly why I make videos like this one, so the next person does not have to learn it standing next to a $5,000 repair quote. That is really what this comes down to. Your hybrid battery is not some mysterious sealed box that lives or dies by luck. It is a system that depends on airflow, and airflow depends on you keeping one cheap filter and one small fan clean. Toyota built these batteries to last well over a decade and well past 200,000 miles. And the ones that achieve that almost always belong to owners who, knowingly or not, kept that cooling system breathing. The ones that die at year 8 almost always belong to owners who never knew the system existed. Now you know. The vent is in the back. The fan is behind it. The filter is cheap. And the $30 and 20 minutes you spend this weekend could be the difference between a battery that quietly serves you for 15 years and one that hands you a $5,200 funeral bill you never saw coming. If you're enjoying this video, consider watching the next one. where I am sharing the hybrid driving habits that quietly destroy your battery from the inside out.